Yeah, I thought I'd do a video. Just came back from India. Something started about 14 years ago, so I stopped seeing people. It got worse, and I'm like, you know what? Just show up, right? So, luckily, I've had the experience of dealing with rejection for like years, right? So, I was okay either way. Luckily, most people are like, okay, you're kind of messed up in other ways. You got to fix it and stuff, right? But more or less same person. Yeah. So when it comes to medical things that happen to you, yeah, you got to look at them right away, but that's not always reality, right? A lot of people can't afford a lot of the medical help they need, or finding alternatives is sometimes difficult because they don't have the resources, right? So a lot of the stuff that I went through last year could have been fixed immediately, but life is life, right? So you make choices and decisions that affect you later on in life and stuff, right? So yeah, so I broke my teeth, right? Fell flat on my face. Someone thought I got punched in the face. I'm now interested in cultures that believe in karma and such, right? So it's I was told, specifically told, because of the mouth that I had on me, that I probably deserved this. Like it's I'm like eating my teeth now, but yeah, you're interested in cultures that believe in karma, right? And like, don't piss off religious people, right? I noticed this in July where I was getting my car fixed, and the week before I started having problems with my car, there was this guy that just came back from the temple, and I said something egotistical or narcissistic in general, and then I started having problems with the car. So I noticed not to piss off religious people, right? So yeah. So yeah, Goya was really interesting and stuff. Blessed, you're just blessed, right? So you're blessed, right? And it is seeing, how much you've changed in 14 years compared to everyone else who's been the same, right? So it's a reality check on things that you don't like about yourself, right? So you're just like, why am I acting like this, right? So you start comparing your 45-year-old self to your 34, anything on below 31, whatever, year old self, like that innocent, happy-go-lucky version of you versus what you've become today, right? So, and you're like, what can I change? What was different and stuff, right? What can I not change, right? So, when I see people, they're like, you're going Boggleville, right? And there's few people that you allow to tell you that, right? So if you have no mental health history or know nothing about mental health, I'm not gonna really take you. You get angry and stuff, right? Because of the lack of awareness, right? But you don't talk to them about that stuff because they're not gonna understand, right? So yeah, but yeah, like it's going to the point of no return, right? Kind of had it that way since my mom passed away and stuff, right? An airline kind of figured that out for some reason. I was on the airline, I was on the airplane, and I wanted to see the latest version of the Joker, with the dude from the Joker, right? The whole Harley Quinn thing or whatever, right? It was horrible and stuff, right? But the pilot didn't want me to see that video, and then you realize why afterwards, right? Like, interesting story. When I was going there, I was taking a certain airline, right? And the air went into turbulence every single time I put that video on, right? So finally, I started reading, the paper or whatever, and I could listen to the audio of the Joker thing, right? And I noticed the one thing they say in the movie is how the guy's mind splits into 7 directions after his mom passes away, right? And you look at the storyline and it's kind of like a disappointing ending and stuff, right? But you're just like, okay, right? I don't know, right? But it's good to leave home sometimes, and then see what's out there and see what people put up with over here versus what people will not put up with over there, right? So that's always good to see and stuff, right? It's also a good reality check on what people really don't give a shit about, right? So yeah, when over here, when me and a couple of buddies, when we were in our 30s, we used to go to restaurants and stuff a lot, right? We're treated really differently than when you're in your 40s. I don't know if this is for anyone else, right? But people in their 40s tip, right? So, like, I don't know if people in their 30s probably tip too, right? But anyways, yeah, so how you look really matters, right? Like, how you look really matters. And I didn't realize I looked somewhat attractive 2 or 3 years ago, right? So it is like naive, like it doesn't, I don't know why it's not common sense, right? But like this stuff, right? I don't know, like after my mom died, it was like boom, boom, boom. I felt like I was cursed for some reason. I started looking into books on witchcraft at the Brampton Library and stuff, right? They wouldn't put that on hold for me. But yeah, like you're like, I don't get it. What is it, right? So, you look for prayers from different religions, but they don't even qualify for that kind of stuff, right? So, like I don't know what it is, right? So you're interested in religions that are karma based, right? Like I had a mouth on me, I pissed off religious people or whatever, right? And looks like someone punched me in the face, right? So, like you try to do the best you can or whatever, right? And you don't play the victim because you see how that looks, right? So, but yeah, you see people after 14 years because you don't act like this in person, right? You're actually like a bit of a jerk in person, right? So you want to make that clear and, people see, right? People see, right? So it's the main thing I notice nowadays is that people see, right? And then people don't see a certain version, right? So I notice nowadays I'm blessed with people taking videos of me breaking down or having a fit, but they don't take the before the video or the after the video, right? They just take what works for them, right? So if you don't notice that maybe before in the video I've said something really blunt to that person, maybe insulted that person, or said something really triggering, right? And then later you have that breakdown or meltdown or whatever stigmatizing way of, showing myself, and then that gets taped, right? So, be aware of what you're seeing, right? And not, I'm being discriminatory again, right? But I see a certain culture, a certain demographic, a certain age, and I think their buddy is somewhere in the back with the camera while they silently sit there and expect me to yell at them, right? So you become more aware of stuff like this, right? So, yeah, like it's one of those things where, like you feel blessed, right? But like life is life. You hope things are getting better from other people, and you try to remember that 34 or 31-year-old self, right? You go somewhere where no one's pissed you off, everyone's exactly the same, except you've changed, and it's due to everything for the last 14 years, right? 14, 15 years, right? So, how do you go back to 34? How do you go back to 31, right? I noticed something when I was 34, which made me stop talking to people and stuff in general. And then it just got progressively worse. And then I started studying it and it just got worse and then downhill. And something I learned when I was 29 is don't tell your personal information online to everyone, because when people know all your insecurities and stuff, they will harp that on you until that affects you psychologically, right? So, but life is life, that's the way it kind of turned out, and you royally fuck up, right? And you try to fix it later on. And you try to fix it as best as you can, right? So you try to help as much as you can. People more or less, they're like, okay, you're okay and stuff, but you got some fucked up shit that you got to deal with, right? So you have to deal with it, right? You have to figure it out, like literally figure it out, right? So certain health things, yeah, you got to look at it immediately, definitely and stuff, but people don't have the resources or the money to do that, right? So you got to take that into accountability as well, right? And it's either food or, looking into your health thing, right? I don't want to, start talking for people that, I don't want to start talking for people, but it's just, you see observations, right? So it's just like people literally don't have the money, right? So, like it is making choices, it is making adjustments, it's making priorities in general, right? Definitely a lot of priorities, right? But yeah, I probably deserve this, right? So, yeah, so it is being a better person. It is trying to remember who I was in the 80s and 90s and realizing 2025 is a different time, right? So, but yeah, like it is putting some money into areas where you should have put some money into, right? So, yesterday I noticed there's some real jerks out there, right? So like, in certain industries and stuff, I think people respect me and people don't and stuff, right? But you really got to look at the situation, right? So, yeah. So, yeah, you're made aware of stuff. And, yeah, certain countries do not give a shit. So it's like, all right. And a buddy of mine, someone I really respect, once told me that you can't let someone get their karma and stuff, right? They either do or they don't. Some people get their karma, some people don't, right? It's just up to you to live your life, right? So that's basically all I can do and try to get help in fixing this, right? So, yeah. So, and then you have to look at certain generations, right? So, Generation X and boomers and millennials and stuff, we were brought up with like, streetlights and not so much social media, right? So if you look at the movie Mean Girls, with Lindsay Lohan and a bunch of other people or whatever, right? That's pretty cool. But the worst thing that happened was a diary and a bunch of papers all over the place. That was like the worst thing in the 90s, right? Now, with a couple of clicks on your phone, right? If you look at Easy A, with Emma something, that was pretty brutal too, and that was in the 2010s. And now people have become immune to it to some degree. I forgot what movie I watched, right? But people have become immune to it to some degree, where the chaos of your social media affects you for like a couple of days, and then, or maybe not, right? So, anyways, maybe not, right? So, I noticed that if I do something that's controversial or funny or a joke or whatever, it usually lasts 2 weeks. And I realized this when I used to work somewhere where everyone used to mess up and stuff, and it was a really great work environment. It was very family oriented and stuff. I still remember it because you never found anything like that afterwards, right? And you notice that was only a period of time, right? Times change. But yeah, like if you messed up at work or whatever, you just laid low for 2 weeks until someone else fucks up, and then you just like, hey, right? So like they fucked up, right? So that's the way that I kind of learned that lesson, right? But yeah, when it comes to videos of people taking vulnerable moments of you, or when you look like a joke, or when you look silly, or when you look idiotic or whatever, they don't take the before or after. So you got to be aware of that, right? I'm making someone proud by doing this. But it was a wake up call. It was a real wake up call. You're like, okay, I act like I was able to prove that I don't act like any of my family, and my family has to put up with me, right? So I was able to prove that, right? So, yeah, like no one acts like the way I do, right? Like I'm very individual. Like everyone's friendly. There's something called tandamata, right? Which I learned there, right? Like it's being cool-headed, right? I lose my temper really, really quickly nowadays, right? You could put that to medical. I don't know, right? This helps with, the broken teeth going down my throat. I don't know. I'm not, again, patient. That's probably not healthy in general, but, they use Coke to clean toilets, right? So, anyways, but yeah, like you learn different things. Like you take someone's phone, for instance, to see what they can see versus what you're wondering what they can see, right? And I noticed that with YouTube in general, it's going on to 13 minutes. With YouTube in general, you can say that 30 people saw your video when on Canada it says only 20 people did. And I also noticed one video where a lot of people were viewing it and I couldn't figure out why. And then someone explained it to me and I was really grossed out. But I don't know if I repeated myself because this is going on to about 14 minutes or so. But your looks really matter. Like I was somewhat attractive a couple of years ago, and like I look old. Like I saw a family friend yesterday. She's like, "You look old," right? So this isn't like a cream or not. Like what? I'm not gonna even bitch about that. I'm happy the way I look, right? Totally happy the way I look. Not gonna bitch about that shit. So yeah, that's all I got. All right, thanks.